Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more Warpforge, and today we're doing yet another tier list, and this is for the offense and defense cards of Warpforge. Now, some of you might already be unlocking the level 20 defense card in the Forge, so maybe you're already wondering which is better, the one that you get at the start of the game on level 1 Forge, or the one that you get a little bit later, and maybe you're also wondering whether it is or is not worth to farm some of these offense and defense cards in the Forge, because Forge costs a lot of resources, so you might want to know what exactly you are fighting for, right? Of course, there's a lot of other rewards there as well, but some people just want to grind for these cards, and you should know if it's worth it or not. We're going to be ranking them according to 5 ranks. So superior ones, the ones that are basically auto-choose, like things that are very strong, and you basically want to get them over anything else. Then there are the good ones that are like good, maybe not as good as the other ones, but sometimes in certain builds, you might want to go for these. Subpars are the ones that are not that good, and in most cases are going to be a waste. Maybe a very special case where they are okay, but in general, not recommended. Bad ones are just outright trash, something that you cannot use because it's just either not worth it or it causes more problems than it gives you benefits. And then there's the meme. The memes are the clown ones, the ones that basically you only play if you want to just mess around with your opponent, because I think that the ones that I place in the meme are basically just clowning around. Sometimes I do that too because it's kind of funny, but in most cases the things that I place there are not to be used unless you just want to mess around with your opponent. Without further ado, let us begin. So the first one that we have here are the Tyranids, and Tyranids actually have a little bit of a problem. So all the factions get a counterattack or a defensive card, let's call it like that, in the Forge at level 1, and most of them are very good. Most of them are actually like superior choices or great choices, but for Tyranids, unfortunately, that is not the case. So Tyranids get Toxic Vapors, which are 1 energy, deal 1 to 3 damage to an enemy. And honestly speaking, I don't think that this is good. I think that this is actually quite subpar. The problem with this is that it is very RNG based, and it's only reliable if you need 1 extra damage on an opponent. So this can be like 1 energy, 1 extra damage and nothing more. And 1 energy, 1 damage is just not good. If this was either 0 energy or was like 2 to 3, I would say that this is like a great card. Maybe even like one of the good or superior cards. But as it stands now, I would put this in subpar. Of course, I get it. +1 damage is nice, but it's just too unreliable with that 1 to 3 range. And the cost of 1 energy on top of that, I think it makes this a little bit of a stupid choice. Now, unless, of course, you don't have any other choice, in which case, of course, you go for this one. Now, the Offense card, which is a Sweeping Infestation, and I want to mention one thing about the Offense cards if you guys don't know. So the Offense card can be triggered by all the factions. So you don't have to be the Tyranids to play a Tyranid offense card. However, it needs to be a Tyranid arena, basically, in order for you to do that, right? So, for example, you can trigger Sweeping Infestation as the Ultramarines, as long as your opponent is a Tyranid, right? So at least one of the players should be a Tyranid, okay? And in that case, you can use it. Now, for some cases, these are better than other factions. In some cases, these are better than its own faction. So this can be a little bit of a mindfuck over here. So with Sweeping Infestation, at the end of the turn, deal 1 damage to the Warlord with the highest health. Now this would have been a much better card if this was dealing damage with the Warlord with the lowest health. Because, for example, with the Swarm Lord, you could actually do a lot of damage with this, because with your 3 attack, you would guarantee that on turn 1, you attack your opponent, you bring him down to lower HP, and then they take 1 more damage. So with like very aggro based decks, this can actually be pretty good. This is not like I mean, it would be really good, but unfortunately, in reality, this is deal 1 damage to the Warlord with the highest health. So what are you going to do, basically? You're discouraging the opponent from going aggro. They're still going to go aggro. So this is really not going to do much for you. This is a bad offense card that I wouldn't suggest using, because it doesn't really do anything for you. Like, in most cases, if you are with the highest health, you're going to start taking damage. So once you get ahead, you have to start taking damage. And why should you do that? Like, why do you want to be the one getting damaged as long as you go, as long as you're winning, right? This would be a much more interesting card if this was the Warlord with the lowest health. And maybe EG will change it to that one day. But right now, it's not good. Now, I know the Tyranids have had like a very weak start here. However, Digestion Pool is a superior choice. This is like an amazing defense card. You unlock it at level 20 of the Forge, and this is absolutely worth farming for your Tyranid players because it reduces the cost of your next troop by 2. This is absolutely crazy because you can drop like some of very strong Tyranid units early. You can drop the Broodlord early, the Crone, Tyranid Prime, like you can use it to trigger your Swarm. So this is like super strong. This is probably the best defensive choice for Tyranids, period. So you definitely want to farm for this and want to get this because this is like super good. The next one is the Protective Biostructure. Give 2 melee attack to a friendly unit this turn. This is definitely a pretty good one. This is not bad at all. It also costs 0 energy compared to this, which costs 1 energy. So, for example, if you're playing a very aggro build, you could certainly try to go for this. Like, you could also use this on your Broodlord, and by using this on the Broodlord, you can like get a shit ton of damage out of this. So, it's definitely a very good choice. I think Digestion Pool in most cases is gonna be a little more reliable and a little more impactful, but this is definitely a good choice. If there was no Digestion Pool, this would be the superior choice. So, Tyranid players, please consider that as well. Next one is another offensive card, which is the Acid Rain. All the troops in the game have Invulnerable 1. I don't know, man. So I'm not sure why exactly you would want to play this, especially as the Tyranids. This is kind of bad because a lot of your units have 0 ranged attack. So you're actually like offering the enemy to just you're just offering the enemy an easier way to take out those troops. So you certainly don't want to play that. The only time this would be good if we had in the game full stratagem builds like in Horus Heresy Legion when you have like Gym Boss Warlords, right? The Gym Boss Warlord type was the Warlord that would have only like tactics and self-buffs and stuff like that. So if you play a tactic-only Warlord, then this could actually be pretty good because it would allow you to essentially deal with the board easier without taking any let's say disadvantages in return. However, there are no such warlords right now, so we're gonna put this in bad. This has potential to become a very scary thing, even overpowered one day once we get the full stratagem warlords. And finally, there's the Blazing Biomass. So whenever a player plays a stratagem, a friendly unit or friendly random troop gains 1 health. This is interesting. This is actually an interesting one, especially for the Tyranids, because Tyranids have a lot of stratagems that are low cost. So this could certainly like benefit them a lot, but don't forget that this also benefits your opponent. In a lot of cases, these offensive cards have that problem, that it also benefits the opponent, right? You're not the only one who gets this benefit. So it might be a little bit of a scary choice, because if you're not smart about it, you might end up giving your opponent more let's say advantages than yourself. This could be, however, much more interesting than the other ones, because these are like you know, meh. So I'll put this in subpar because like there's not gonna be any clear cases where this is gonna give you an insane advantage. But I think like the only time you could actually kind of benefit from this is like if you're playing Necrons against the Tyranids and you're maybe playing Scarabs or something, then it could be nice with Oricon to just buff them up. But in general, it's a meh. Now, next we'll go to the Orcs. And Orcs get the Gretchen Tower, which I'm gonna say is like actually a pretty superior thing. Gretchen Tower is really nice because it drops you 2 Grots, which is absolutely great. If you also have Makari in hand, you already have a strong board turn 1. This can help you with a lot of things like your Tide. This can be a great target, not Tide, sorry. With your Mob, this can be a great target for Ardes Nails. This is good for Gaskell. So something that you always want to actually take advantage of. I'm actually going to go ahead and do the orc defensive cards first before we move on to the offense ones. So this is like the extractor rig. Your vehicles cost 2 less. This would be like a superior card, and it will be a superior card once orc vehicles get a buff, and I'm sure that they will. This could be like this could be really good, because if you're playing vehicle orc and drop a early death threat, this could be really good. Like even coupled with something like a spanner or something like, for example, a Gazmech, this could be really nice. Like imagine you could play, technically speaking, on energy turn 4, you could play a Grot tank plus spanner and instantly attack to buff the Grot tank. So this is a very good choice. Right now, the only reason why it's maybe not superior, or actually it could be superior even. The only reason why it's not superior in my opinion is that orc vehicles is not that good right now. But if it becomes good, it's going to move up a tier, but still a very, very good choice. On top of that, the Toxic Bonfire, stun an enemy, totally S tier, like 0 energy stun an enemy. So this is like the Raven Guard counterattack from Horus Heresy Legion. So orcs actually get like some of the best defense cards now that I'm looking at it. So all of them are a really nice choice that you could go for. These are like super good. And they also start off with a very great choice as well. Now, as for starters, we have the first meme, which is a Dust Storm. When a troop attacks, there's a 25% chance that it attacks a random enemy. That includes your troops as well, gentlemen. So, like, no matter what you're playing, this is stupid. Even if you were playing a Gym Boss Warlord, it would still not work, because with Gym Boss Warlords, you're not dropping any troops. So this is just a meme. If you want to mess up the game by having stupid RNG, then be my guest. But this is just a meme, nothing else. With Spore Cloud, at the end of each player's turn, any damaged unit gains +1 melee and ranged attack. This could actually be good. Now let me explain why. If you're playing an offensive orc, like for example, the aggro orc, and you just swarm the board, if your opponent cannot clean it up, every single turn those troops attack, they become stronger. So this can ramp up. Like greatly your potential, because you're swarming the board once again with the orcs. So this can really benefit you with that. Factions other than the orcs can also benefit from this. Like for example, if you're getting a Lich Guard down, there's a chance that the Lich Guard is going to stay damaged for a long time, and it's going to ramp up the damage. Now the only thing is that you need to think about it. Does this benefit you more than the enemy? Because this doesn't have to benefit you both, depending on what faction you're playing, right? So most cases you want to use this as the orcs probably, and you want to use it against the faction that's not going to be having a lot of sticking power or swarming power. So I would say this is actually pretty good. And Night Attack, I'm going to put at superior. And before you start bashing me and saying that I'm like an orc, I'm for I'm all for orcs and I'm kind of biased, I'm telling you, this is a very, very good. These are very good cards. Look at the Night Attack. When a troop is deployed, it gains camouflage for 1 turn. This is absolutely nuts. Let me tell you why. Especially if you're playing with the orcs. The thing is, if you get the camouflage, you're not going to be able to be targeted with hard removal, like Ultramarine removal, like the Methodical Destruction. So for factions like orcs who have like untargeted removal, or Tyranids, or like other factions that could benefit from camouflage, like Chaos, for example, this could be really, really good. The only thing is that there has to be at least 1 orc player for this to trigger, right? So for other factions that are going to be using this against the orcs, is not going to be that good, because the orc player orcs don't really have stratagems that can be targeted. Can target the others, so they're mostly using like No Mocking About and Will of Gork, so they're not going to get that much of a benefit. However, orcs themselves are going to get a great benefit from this, because you drop like let's say Archel Gurk, and have fun removing Archel Gurk as, let's say, Ultramarines if you don't have something on the board, right? So this could be like very good offensive capability on a control orc. So I'm going to put this in superior. This is a great offense card. Now, let's go to the Ultramarines. We're starting from the Hive Factory. It also goes into S tier, because your next card costs 1 less. Absolutely great. You can play an early Impulsor, an early Angels of Death, an early, for example, Sergeant, Intercessor, whatever. Like, you could even start by one of the scariest things that the Ultramarines do. You can start turn 1 with the Stern Guard Veteran. So this allows them to, even the player who goes second, to regain the initiative, which is super strong. So just like the digestion pool, this is really good. It's just that this doesn't work only on troops, this also works on tactics, so it can be absolutely sick. As for the other defense cards of the Ultramarines, so let's take a look. So there's one energy, deal 2 damage to an enemy. So this is a better Toxic Vapors essentially, because it costs 1 again, but this time I know that this is gonna deal 2 damage. So this is just a better version of Toxic Vapors, because yeah, Toxic Vapors has max damage, larger, but like it's 1 to 3 chance, while this one always deals consistent damage, 1 energy to 2 damage. This is great. So I would, this is like quick fire from Horus Heresy Legions, and I would certainly say this is a good counterattack. This maybe not, this could even go into superior actually if you wanna. You know what? I could actually also not. Well, no, I'll put this into good simply because the high factory is a little bit better, I guess. I think in most cases you might want to go for high factory, but fire strike turrets can also be pretty good. So, yeah, really depends on which warlord you're playing, I guess. Light cover, give 1 armor to a friendly infantry. I guess this is a little bit subpar. There are cases where you might want to use this and make your infantry durable, but the other choices are just so much better. You see what I mean, right? So you probably want to get these two over this any day of the week. So I would say this is just gonna stay in subpar in this case. Now with Orbital Bombardment, this is a meme. If you want somebody to rage, play Orbital Bombardment. This is a meme because it also targets your own stuff. So once again, unless you're playing a Gym Boss Warlord that doesn't play any war units, which don't exist right now, this is bad because this can also trigger in a time that you don't want it to trigger, right? So if you're playing the Ultramarines, for example, you don't want to use this because it can clear your whole impulsor value. So this is not good. However, there are cases that you might find this useful. Maybe if you're playing against the Orcs, it might be useful to use it in some cases. But once again, it can work against your benefit. It's just a 10% chance. It can mess up your game more times than it can actually benefit it. Now this one is the fleet support, which says that each troop first troop on each turn will cost 1 less. This is a pretty interesting one. I'm gonna go ahead and put this into good, like especially if you are. If you think about the matchups that you might want to be, let's say if you're playing against Necrons against the Ultramarines, you might want to do this because you'll be able to get stuff like Lich Guard out early, but you need to consider that you will also benefit the Ultramarines with this. So this is like something that you need to play a little bit smart. You have to be pretty smart about this because if you use it in a very stupid way, this is not gonna be good. Like let's say if you're playing the Orcs, most probably you don't want to use this because yeah, you're tied, that's good, but you already have like the Green Horde for that, so you're just going to be benefiting the Ultramarines. So Ultramarines can get a large benefit themselves when playing against certain factions. So you have to be very careful, especially maybe if you're playing against the Tyranids. This might become very scary because Tyranids can use this to great effect. So I think this is a good one. I might be wrong, but I think this is a good one. Now, with Thunderstorm, it's very interesting. So when a player gains a skull, the opponent gains 1 energy. This is a very, very interesting thing, and I'm going to go ahead and put this into good as well. Let me explain why. So you might think that this is... Actually, let me tell you what this is about. This is good, but you need to understand that you're not playing this as the Ultramarines. You're playing this as the enemy of the Ultramarines. Because when you're playing Ultramarines, when you're playing aggro, you're just destroying your opponent. You don't want them gaining energy. But let's say you're Necron playing against the Ultramarines, and the Ultramarine just starts mashing your face and starts just shooting everything. Yeah, you're going to gain 1 energy sooner, so you're going to drop your Lich Guard sooner, you're going to play your Tomb World sooner. So this Thunderstorm is actually really good when you're against the Ultramarines. See what I mean? So this can actually be a huge benefit to unlock if you want to have a better time fighting the Ultramarines and other factions. Because usually the Ultramarine is the one who's going aggro. Okay, let's now move to the Necrons, and first we got the Awakened Obelisk, 0 energy, deal 1 damage. Once again, this is like better than Toxic Vapors, because even though it's 1 damage, it's 0 energy, right? So like 0 energy is always good, and this can also be beneficial for the Necrons because it can trigger your Artifice. So absolutely great. This is like a very, very good choice. The only reason why I'm not putting that in Superior is because Divination of Menhir is mostly the best defensive card for the Necrons. This allows like tons of good stuff. You can play Sight Assault early against Orcs, you can play Tomb World early, you can play the Implacable Conqueror on energy turn 3, which can actually win you the game and can turn that meme card into an actual good card. You can play Conquering Tyrant early. There's like a lot of things that you can do with this, so this grants you super big like flexibility. And don't forget, this also triggers Artifice, so drop a Plasmancer, play this, play your Warlord power, and you get the Plasmancer to shoot twice. This is absolutely nuts, and this is like the best defensive card for Necrons. The other one that they have is to reanimate a Remnant. This is also good. Like, there's no reason to put this in subpar or bad. This is also pretty good because a free reanimation is always nice. Once again, 0 energy triggers Artifice. So there you go. The only thing is that the Divination of Menhir is just a better choice. With the things that the Necrons get, like, I'm going to start from Ethereal Energy. I think that the Ethereal Energy is kind of bad because at the end of each player's turn, you heal 1 to a random unit they control. I know that you might be thinking that, for example, if you play Imhotep, you're essentially turning yourself immortal. So this can give you like a lot of... actually, let's not put this in bad, let's put this in subpar. This can get you a lot of survivability, but this also gives your opponent a lot of survivability, right? So it might become very difficult for you to remove their units, so this can benefit you as much as it can benefit the opponent. So you might want to be like careful with this. However, on the other hand, if you're playing like stuff like the aggressor, if you're the one who's on the offensive, you might not want to do this because you don't want to give Imhotep or any other Necron that extra healing. It's a little subpar, but there are situations maybe where it can benefit you. Subpar, same goes for Solar Storm. Solar Storm is like, it can work. Like, for example, let's say you're playing Oricon the Diviner. In most cases, you're going to have like 1 energy left over and you're going to deal that extra damage to your opponent. What this does is, at the end of each player's turn, if they have unspent energy, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, right? So this can really help you out with that. Or with Imhotep, it can also be okay. And this can be really great actually if you're playing against the Ultramarines, because Ultramarines won't benefit from this much because they're trying to trigger their codex like always. So you can kind of use this only for your own benefit and not the benefit of the Ultramarines, because they're not going to be able to use this. But still, it's a little subpar, it's unreliable, and in most cases you just don't want to use this. Like, I know I actually gonna put this in bad. Like, you don't want to be using this in most cases because it's gonna be just unreliable. With the Earthquake, however, I'm actually thinking of putting this in good. The Earthquake is when a player earns a skull, stun a unit on each player's side. So if you're playing like a defensive, on the defensive basically, just like how the Thunderstorm can benefit you, the Earthquake can also benefit you, because once they bring you down to 20 health, you stun their units, so you kind of stall their offensive, right? So this is, I think, also a pretty good one. This is much better than the original Earthquake, which was just at the end of the turn stun something. It was stupid. So I think this could be really, really nice if you're playing defensive. If you want to stall your opponent, once again, this can be pretty okay. Okay, on to the Eldar, and they start off with a very simple card, which is just choose a Saimhan unit and add it to your hand. Yeah, this is good. I mean, there is no reason to say that this is bad, right? You just get a unit and you just add it to your hand. This, you can never really go wrong with that. Sometimes you might get crappy RNG, but even if it's like bad units, it's still a free unit in your hand. So always like not a bad choice to do something like that. However, with Inspiring Legacy, where you just give 1 shuriken to a friendly unit this turn, that's pretty subpar. Like, why would you want to use this when you have this, for example, right? You're essentially using Eliak Zephyrblade's ability for once in the game. Not that good. Sure, Eliak can only target vehicles and himself, but still, I don't think that's like that worth it, especially when we have Aspect Shrine, which is the superior choice because it gives you 2 Spirit Stones instantly. That is really good because Spirit Stones are like the main resource of the Eldar, and they really need to use this in a clever way, and sometimes they just miss those 2 Spirit Stones to do some strong play, like either play the guy that drops the Guardians or play the flank guy with 2 armor. So this could really help you out with some late game stuff as well, like reconquer the stars and so on. So I see this as the superior choice. This is a good choice, and this is subpar. As for the offense cards of the Eldar, this is actually very interesting. The first one is both players gain 1 energy at the start of the match. Honestly speaking, I'm going to put this into a superior offense, just like the Night Attack. Now, let me tell you why. You don't always want to use this, but this is like a great possibility for a lot of things. Like, imagine if you're playing against a Scarab deck, or you're playing against a Orc deck. This can really help you start off with AoE sooner, so clear, and this can really help you drop your late game units sooner. So in some matchups, this is crucial. Even Necrons might want to use this against the Eldar because they maybe will drop Tomb World and stuff earlier. Like if you're playing against a Swarm type of Eldar, this can help you out. So this kind of raises the stakes. This makes the game faster. So honestly speaking, this could be pretty good. This will also allow everyone to drop a 3-cost unit right away. So yeah, I think this is a very superior offensive card that can be used in a very clever way. Maybe I'm wrong, but you guys tell me. Next, we have the Webway Path. At the end of each player's turn, if they have unspent energy, you draw a card. So this is very interesting. So this is like the Solar Storm, but this is the good version of Solar Storm. This could be pretty good. So this makes the game faster, like even before the overtime. This can be really, really, really good if you're playing a Swarm Eldar. Because with the Swarm Eldar, you're just dropping a lot of units and you're swarming the board and you run out of cards very quickly. And Eldar don't have that many card draw options aside from very costly ones. So you could actually benefit from this much more than the others because, as you guys know, from free card draw, aggro benefits a little more than control because they still get their aggro going because they don't run out of cards. So essentially, you are starting in the overtime earlier than it's supposed to be. And during overtime, you're essentially drawing like 3 cards instead of 2. But if you're playing this, usually you don't want the game to go to the overtime, right? So a pretty nice card at all in all. And each turn, there's a 50% chance that a random enemy gets blinded. Meme. So this is like an absolute meme because once again, like you can mess up the game totally for yourself and for your opponent as well. All you're going to receive from this is a raging opponent. So sure, meme it if you want to meme it, but I think it's trash. So you don't want to do that ever. It's like absolutely unreliable. Plus, considering that if you're playing with the Eldar, a lot of your units are ranged. So seriously, like what the hell, right? And don't forget that it's a random troop, not a random enemy troop. So like you're memeing like crazy if you're playing this. Next, we have the Hellfire Torch for Chaos in Superior instantly because you get to choose a Dark Pact. So right away, you can give your unit +2 health and camouflage. You can give Mark of Nurgle. You can use like so many things. You can do so many things with this. So Hellfire Torch is absolutely great. Combo's great with that unit that they have. Chaos item for, I forgot what it's like, what it's called, 2/3 that does 2 damage whenever you target it with a stratagem, so the Mark of Chaos or whatever it is, like Dark Pact, yeah, there you go. So this could be really, really good. For Chaos, this is like prime choice, and they come with this on level 1, so it's really, really good. After that, what we get is we are going to talk about the Hellfire Pit, which is deal 3 damage to a random enemy, which I'm going to put enemy troop putting good. This is bad because it's a little bit of RNG, but it's still better than Toxic Vapors because, like, you know that you're dealing 3 damage, and in most cases, like, you can use this in a smart way. So take out 1 unit, and the other unit that is left, you take it out with 3 damage. Or you can just shut down the enemy tempo instantly. So somebody dropped a 3 health unit or a stealth unit, just use this and take it out. It can help you with a lot of things, actually. I would even like opt to put this in Superior, to be honest, because this can give you like so many good options. Like, don't let that RNG fool you. This could be really good. So stealth units, Camouflaged units. Yeah, this could do really well. Just because it's RNG doesn't mean that you can use it effectively, because you can manipulate the RNG a little bit here, unlike this one. What I mean is, like, if there's 2 units, kill one and use this to take out the other. So pretty good. The other defensive card that we have is choose a Black Legion's troop and add it to your hand. So essentially it's the same thing as with Sam Han. So you're going to put it in good. Yeah, it's good, but the others are better. So in most cases, you're going to be getting these, but this can also work if you want a very specific build. Now, here's an interesting one. With the offense cards, what is here? When a troop dies, its owner refills 1 energy. Jesus Christ. This is absolutely crazy. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be putting this. This can work against you or for you. Honestly, if you're playing orcs against Black Legion, this could be really funny. With Tyranids, it could be funny. I think this could benefit everyone more than the Black Legion, honestly. So yeah, it could be a good one. Like, this essentially gives your Warlord passive, so whenever it, like, a troop dies, the owner gains 1 energy. You're also providing your opponent with this bonus, so you gotta be very careful in how you use this, but this can make some very interesting combos. Too early to say, honestly, but I think this at some point is going to become a very staple card for some certain combos. For Warpstorm, you have the first stratagem each turn costs 1 less. This is a very scary card that I'm also going to put in good. This is a very scary card for a very simple reason. The reason for this being that if you're using this, your opponent once again might benefit more from this than you, because you don't want an energy 9 rock invasion. But on the other hand, if you're playing the orcs, you want to play the energy 9 rock invasion, right? Or energy 7 tomb world and so on. With Black Legion, maybe you could play something like the Dark Crusade or whatever, which just drops your units from your deck. But in most cases, others are going to benefit a little more from this than the Black Legion. But as I said, offensive cards are not for only their own factions, so you can benefit a lot from this when playing against Chaos, I think, because Chaos don't have that many impactful stratagems, while the other factions do. So there you go. And finally, you got the Hellfire Outburst. When player earns a skull, deal 4 damage to a random unit from each player. And I think I'm going to put this in Superior. You know why? Because if you're playing an aggro deck, like especially against Chaos, this could be like nuts. Because imagine, like, every time you bring your opponent down to 20 health, suddenly they're at 16 health. Then if you bring them down to 10 health, suddenly they are at 6 health. So this can actually be really good. However, this can also damage you as well, don't forget. So it can be, once again, a double-edged sword. So you got to be very careful in how you choose and use this. But yeah, there's my list, guys. So this is these are the choices that I think are for each faction. I think, as you can see, every faction has a superior choice, so you should know, like, which defensive cards you want to use. Offensive cards are a little bit harder to do, but there you go. That's what it is. So if I were to sum it up, I think Necrons and Tyranids are the ones we need to grind as soon as possible to get to 20. I'm at 18 right now with my Necrons, and I really want to get Divination of Men here, after which I'm going to start farming for Digestion Pool, because every other faction gets a pretty okay thing as it is, even at the start. So Necrons also do, but this is just really good. So please comment what you think. As always, I always appreciate your input. Write a comment if you want to see more content, more specific content, I mean, more tier lists from me. And yeah, thank you very much. Ecclesiarch out.